YouTubers, welcome back. And it's me, your friendly neighborhood Tyler man. And today, since nothing's really going on, the state shut down because of the coronavirus. So for you guys, I'm going to be pulling the intake off my previous build, which is this small block Chevy right here. Intake, heads, and possibly the cam. And I'm also gonna go over what times my other build ran, which is the LT1. And I was planning on maybe going to a couple of the no clock events. You can't show your times, but now with tracks being closed, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to run in that class. So I'm just gonna show my times for you guys, talk about differences between this build and that build, and why I think one build ran a little faster than the other. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and hit that bell for notifications. Roll that beautiful logo. So my dogs really want to get in the action. The redhead is Ginger, and the blue and white one right here is Molly. I corralled them in so they couldn't escape, but they are steadily trying to escape. And then Molly's gonna go inside, aren't you, girl? Yeah, wanna come back out? Both of y'all gonna go inside? All right, anyways, right here I have the cam card for the LT1, which of course the LT1 is the motor that's in the S10 right now. And I have the CAN card for the small block Chevy, which is right here. We'll go over the times and the specs and why one ran a little bit faster than the other. So here we have two NA times. This is the best NA time from the small block Chevy, which was a 1096 at 123 miles an hour. And this was the best time. I could have probably gotten it better because this is still pump gas and that motor has more compression. And I only had 32 degrees of timing in it, but it's all we have because the tracks are not open right now. So this is all we had to compare. And its best time was actually faster than the small block Chevy, and it ran at 1082 at 122 miles an hour. Now I do have faster top end speeds of the small block Chevy in 11.0 kind of time frame. And I got to be like 125 miles an hour, which is to be expected, because the small block Chevy, it does have way better CNC heads, and it has a bigger cam, which I'll go over the specs in a second, but it does have less compression, and the cam is was spec'd out for a 400 cubic inch small block Chevy and not a 350 with 10 2-to-1 compression. So here is the cam specs. Had a 598 lift on the intake, 607 on the exhaust. But the real big kicker here is look at the duration at 50. At 50, duration at 50 is 266, 272. And that is a lot for a 350 to ask for to feed this cam on these heads, which gave it a really soft bottom end. So now if we compare the LT1, which is in there now, we can quickly see exactly why it ran a little faster than the small block Chevy right here. And the big determining factor of why the LT1 ran faster was the 60 foot. It was able to bust out a 147 60 foot NA and pull the left front tire off the ground, which I will roll that clip right now. And if we go over to cam specs of the LT1, it really isn't that small of a cam. I am running a 1.5 rocker on it right now, so it's not 592. It's probably like in the 570s. I have to do the math on that. But the actual lift on the valve, when I measured it, was about 550 lift. And the duration, you can see right here, it does have a good bit of duration. It's got 260 on the intake, and it's got 260 on the exhaust, which is not a small cam. But what's very interesting about this combination with this cam on that LT1 with the stall converter, it is very streetable and it doesn't have a lot of chop. All right, so I'll start at the top and I'll work my way down. Really, this is a budget build besides the rotating assembly. This intake I had on the shelf. It was collecting dust because it was so high. I didn't use it for a long time. So when I ported the heads, I ported the heads to match the Wine Team G intake. And this is a small block Chevy intake. And you can see right there by the water tower that is indeed a small block Chevy intake that I just changed the bolt holes around to make work on the LT1 heads. If you want more information on this build, I have a whole build series on this LT1 from when I tore the motor down, when I hurt it on nitrous, to now, which you see in its present condition. So if you're interested in that, go watch that series. The heads, you know, just home ported heads. I got Comp Pro Magnum rockers on there. They're 1.5s. Solid roller cam, of course. You saw the cam card already. I got good push rods in there. They're 105 wall chromoly push rods. I am not running any stud girdle for the rockers. And down to the block, it is a factory LT1 block, which that's pretty much all they make right now. They are making an aftermarket block. We'll see how that comes into fruition. It's going to be pretty interesting to see that block and some of these builds who are running really fast, like Rubworm, for instance. I do believe he can get into the sixes pretty easy with an aftermarket block and a little more displacement. So the rotating assembly was basically, it's the exact same rotating assembly you would get for a OE roller motor for a small block Chevy. The LT1 OE roller motor is pretty much exactly the same thing as an OE motor on the small block Chevy, except for the reverse cooling on the heads. Other than that, it is pretty much a budget build, besides the rotating assembly. You could duplicate this same setup with this cam if you got it balanced really good, and I know these motors will survive at 7,000 RPM for quite a while, because the rotating assembly that was in this, the crank and the rods, besides the pistons that I had before, I must have spun that thing up, hit the rev limiter on nitrous, doing burnouts, hitting it again, and I probably, that motor probably saw 7,200, 7,500 so many times before 1999 to when I tore it apart on nitrous, that I know for a fact that they can survive if you build them right with the stock rotating assembly. Now, it's important to note that you don't come crying to me if you blow up your stock rotating assembly spinning it to 7,000 RPM. Now, when I had mine built years ago, I had it all line honed, I had it rebalanced, and I put good ARP bolts in the motor. And also the clearances were set up just a little bit looser than a stock motor also, so it had a little more wiggle room in there. So there's definitely things you have to do to your motor to ensure that it will survive at 7,000 RPM. And I also wasn't just going out in the street and constantly beating it up at 7,000 RPM. I would usually sit there like, 6,500, but I went out racing. A lot of times I would mess up, overshift, it would peg the rev limiter, and it saw above 6,500 RPM a lot for a long time. So I know they can, but again, do not come crying to me if you blow your shit up. Just your old basic small block Chevy stuff. Yeah, I love how big the ports are in those AFR heads. These are definitely, I think, the best bang for your buck as far as heads go. Really good casting. I got these heads new, still in a box, for like around, I think it was like 1,500. So for a whole set, that springs everything. So that's really not that bad. People always say AFR heads cost like $2,000 for a set, but if you look, you can definitely get them not super expensive. Well, that is it. The heads are off, and everything with this motor, let me get this guy turned over. Everything with this motor looks pretty darn good. I mean, the pistons look like in good shape. I probably shouldn't have put that copper seal on there, but I didn't have this deck checked. Make sure everything was flat, so I can take that off. But you know, I'm not gonna even consider disassembling this to do anything to it. I'm just gonna keep it on deck for right now. And I can still see the honing marks on those cylinders, so there is absolutely nothing wrong with this motor. It ran really good when I had it in there. I sprayed nitrous on it. Everything looks pretty darn good. I can get a little shot in there so you can see the honing marks. Probably hard to see this wide angle lens. But yeah, she looks good. Old small block Chevy. Well, I think I'm going to stop right there on the old, not LT1, but the old small block Chevy that is. It looks good. I mean, I am going to pull the cam out. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do with this motor. Either I'm going to sell it, because I do want to put those heads and cam on a 400 cubic inch small block Chevy, and I don't have enough room for all these motors, so I'm probably going to sell this. Not sure yet, but to know, stay tuned. And these heads right here, I am going to take them apart, and I'm going to clean them up, do a little bit of porting on them, nothing big, just kind of take the CNC work and just smooth it out just a little bit more, a couple of spots, because those heads are actually really good heads, and I don't want to mess up their work. So with that said, don't forget to subscribe, hit that bell for notifications, and that like button. See you guys next time. Happy wrenching. Peace.